I'm your host, Nikolai Hill. Today we're talking about another episode of immigrant stuff. Of course, we're in Chicago, Illinois today. We're celebrating the Independence Day, the Association of All Ecuadorians in Chicago, in America, and the 20,000 plus Ecuadorian Americans that call America home, whether they're first generation, second generation, or they've just moved to this land. So we acknowledge them with that blue, gold, and red flag. We also had an opportunity to celebrate Colombia's Heritage Day. And try to represent all aspects of immigrants and cultures in America, especially on this program, the Immigrant Podcast. This week in America, of course, a lot of things happened. Specifically, the Alabama battle in Montgomery, Alabama, 2023. Something that we've never seen in America, especially something that we didn't expect to see in America in 2023. A desensitized group of Black Americans who, of course, were caught in a situation where the anger of the last 400 years just came to fruition. And it was on full display in front of everybody, in front of the entire country, in front of the entire world, to be honest. Of course, media is not only a camera from a station, which is a conglomerate. No, your media is a cell phone, a TV stand, a camera stand, a podcast like I'm bringing you today. And fortunately, I can basically say I'm a part of the media bringing you this information. Let me ask you a few questions. Are Black folks desensitized to those white perpetrators by beating them down in Montgomery, Alabama? Is something that we expected to see in 2023? Do we cause and fault any of those African Americans that were caught into that situation a few weeks ago? Is it something that we expected? Was racism the main factor for what happened recently? Can we safely say, yes, that's what it was? We saw a group of Caucasian people in Montgomery, Alabama, of course, seeming that they were privileged to be in a scenario, privileged to be in a country, privileged enough to feel like they could park their boat wherever they felt like, without regard for the security guard that was working there or the people who were actually designed to park there, scheduled to park in the positions that they parked their boat in. This is the America we are in today. We're getting away with a lot of things that we're not getting away with a lot of things that we used to get away with before the social media, before camera phones. It's a different time in America. And I think a lot of Caucasians are seeing that as well from what happened in Montgomery. I would say 50 years ago, if that happened, let's say in Selma, Alabama, or somewhere in Georgia, and a group of Caucasians, let's say, jumped a Black man, would the entire situation, would this have happened like it happened? Would innocent should I say bystanders of the African American culture, would they jump in to come to the aid of one African American man who was working as a security guard that day? I don't know. I don't know if that's where we would be if it wasn't 2023. If this was 1953, I don't think that would have happened. And I think most of my listeners and people who subscribe to my broadcast, who are of immigrant culture, who are of the minority, I think they would agree. Is this something that we want to see happen again in America? If America was a better America, do you think that we would see kind of stuff like that? We would see things like that happening in full view? Let me give you a couple of things that are very coincidental. I don't know if it's a coincidence or it was meant to be. The name of the vessel that was parked in the position that we can all see on that video is called the Harriet II, named after one of the greatest human beings to represent Black people in America, Miss Harriet Tubman. That dock that incident happened was also the same dock that enslaved Africans were sold on Friday nights as the original Black Friday sales day. Are these things coincidence? Was this misfortune? No, I personally think, and a lot of my subscribers, like I know, and a lot of people tuning in to this episode of the Immigrant Podcast today, we like to think that this is what happens when you have 400 years of slavery and we don't come to a conclusion and we continue to have the same things that are happening. We go from the same path when it comes from a government. We go from the same stance when we come from it's clear to me and to a lot of my listeners that African Americans are fed up. They've come to a breaking point where they're not going to, no longer they're going to stand by and watch the deprived, um, the gentrified human being, the misconstrued African American be picked on and beaten down in public.